Hi, Steve here again. I wanted to share with you what's in this Outside-In Concepts. What are these modules are going to go through? How are the videos going to work? In association with the videos, you're going to get the downloads, the templates. You also get these cliff notes. Cliff notes being those things where you've annotated as you've gone along and you've made notes to highlight certain points. So let me give you a quick overview of the content that we're going to go through across all these Outside-In Concepts and why I think it's key and critical to our business's success. So let me share my screen for a moment, get over to the main deck, and let's have a look at what we're looking at. So these concepts are going to cover a range of shifts that have happened to our organisations, so whether we're for-profit, not-for-profit, public sector, charitable, it doesn't really matter. If we've got customers, clients, citizens, consumers, it's usually a C word, isn't it? But if we've got one of those entities and we're dealing with those entities, we could be a business-to-business enterprise, could be a business-to-consumer, doesn't matter. The customer's fundamental. So I'm going to talk you through those first concept, each stage of the concepts. And the first one I really want to relate to is this idea of the moment of truth. And what's the idea that is around this one? Well, it's moments of truth, any interaction with the customer. They're everywhere all the time, but it's sometimes misunderstood. They are the cause of all our work for our organisation, the root cause of all our work. Of course, there's other causes as well, but the root cause of all work is fundamentally the moment of truth. And Google have really been on a crusade in this area over the last few years. So we're going to look at moments of truth. Where did it come from? What was it about? And, you know, in terms of that genesis, where did it take us to? And now where can we go with it? How do we take it, you know, above and beyond and out to the next level? Is this idea of six-step innovation, this approach that originally came out of companies like Apple, where they were saying, oh yeah, same old and improving incrementally is fine, but it's perhaps not good enough, particularly now we're in the third decade of the 21st century. What could we do in the roaring 20s, which is so much significantly different from what we've done in the past? And this is where six-step innovation plays the game. It's from the point of view, it's simple, it's inclusive, and it's quick. And when I mean simple, you don't need a brain the size of a planet to get this stuff. The concepts are very straightforward. In terms of inclusive, it's about the whole organisation. It's everybody who's participating in this way work gets done these days. And it's also very quick. Within 2 or 3 hours, with a bunch of people in the room, virtually or physically, you can get some results. So the second thing we'll cover is the six-step innovation. Building on that is the idea of the disruption factor. Well, what's the disruption factor? Well, we're either being negatively disruptive to ourselves as an organisation because of our complexity and legacy, or we're being positively disruptive to the industry and the market by offering our customers better service, better products, greater, more beneficial experiences. So when we're thinking about the six-step innovation approach, what we can start to do is build on that, and with the disruption factor is understand almost that sort of before and after idea. How broken are things in the current state? What is the potential for improvement? And how does that improvement correlate with the Triple Crown idea, the improvement to service, the lowering of costs and the growing of revenues? And how do we demonstrate the size of that prize? How do we show it in an objective, measurable way? So that will be with the disruption factor, a way of being able to calibrate the before and the after. The next key theme is this North Star alignment. And that's this idea that every organisation has its own true north, and every individual probably has their own true north. Well, the first question to ask ourselves is, how closely aligned are we with our organisation's true north? And is that true north really an explanation of being outside in, or is it carrying on doing what we've always done? Right? Is it a new way? Are we becoming customer centric? Is it correct for the future? And how could we change that calibration? How could we as individuals and teams influence our organisation's calibration? And how do we actually encourage outside in? So North Star alignment, all about finding our respective true norths and creating the alignment around it. Beyond that, we want to look at the outside in strategic matrix. And in this module, what we're going to be covering off is where do our processes and experiences start and end? And are we inclusive enough of the total customer experience? Are we looking at too narrow a window? And even if we are only able to look into that very narrow gap, we should be able to do whatever we're going to do in terms of change in the context of the broader customer experience that we're actually trying to create. So are we really getting outside in? Are we progressing on that journey? Is everything that we're doing improving our ability to be able to deliver successful customer outcomes? And how do we build and engineer the future? How do we sort of change the parts of the engine while the engine's running? So outside in strategic matrix will give us that handle. Moving beyond from that, we want to look at the what we refer to as the successful customer outcome canvas. And what that's about is this: if we take a customer and ask ourselves the question, what are the needs of that customer, and how can we turn those needs into a set of metrics that can allow us to calibrate how far we're on that journey in terms of delivering those needs. So here I draw the difference between, it's not about what customers want, it's about what customers need. And so often customers are not able to articulate that for themselves. So is there a mechanism that we could use over in this, in the SCOC as Successful Customer Outcome Canvas as 8 questions? So is there a mechanism that we can use to actually evolve and understand that? And of course there is. So when we do the SCOC, that session is like 30 minutes long. So it's quite an in-depth session. It will give you those 8 questions, and based on the answers to those 8 questions, come up with a set of metrics which are directly aligned against the successful customer outcome and the successful business outcomes that go along with that. Now, we may ask ourselves the question along the way as we're looking at the SCOC, who is this customer? Well, how do we understand who our customers are? And classically, we use traditional marketing techniques like customer segmentation, separating customers into buckets by demography. Where do you live? You know, what's your income level? What's your family situation? What's your education level? Well, that might have worked in the past and it might have been fine, but it doesn't give us clear enough resolution on our customers today. So customer categorization talks about this whole idea of categorizing by need. It moves beyond segmentation, and it's about encouraging that alignment to customer needs. When we understand how to prioritize customers based on their importance to us as an organization, what we can then do is get laser-like focus on the delivery of those needs. So customer categorization of itself will break out all the different categories. We'll then move into performance landscape, and we talk about customer performance landscape and process performance landscapes. What are these things, these landscapes? Well, essentially what the landscape is a way of understanding how we connect the dots, how we draw the lines between everyone and everything across our organisation. And our representation system there uses this idea that, for instance, tasks and activities produce outputs. And frequently our measurement systems stop there, but we need to go further. What is the result of that output? And that's an outcome. What is the result of that business outcome? Well, that's a customer outcome. And then ultimately, what is the successful customer outcome? So we build these virtuous pyramids which connect everyone and everything, the digitization, the skill sets, the mindsets that we need in our organization. And we have clear line of sight across all the dots and all the lines to the successful customer outcome. So the performance landscape gives us not just that visual aid, but when we dive down into it, it gives us the detail for the connectedness between everything. Now, it would be nice along the way to have measurement systems which were objective and scientific. But as some of you all know, I'm forever saying we've got to get more scientific about the customer experience. And the CX6 gives us that capability to move from subjective, perceptual and emotional thinking to much more scientific and objective thinking against a range of elements that we can quantify and then calibrate against. So the CX6, Customer Experience 6, are those 6 measures that we can apply to a complete experience, a complete process, or an individual moment of truth. We can get down to that level of detail. By understanding the CX6, we can ask ourselves the question, how easy is this? You might say, well, easy for this particular process and activity is 3 moments of truth. Anything above 3 moments of truth, it's not easy for the customer, and 3 moments of truth or less is fantastic. How fast is it? And there's a whole bunch of, across the 6 elements, we can quantify and put against our own processes and our own experiences in the organisation. We then get to the bringing it all together, an outside-in dashboard. And it's one comprehensive and complete picture of what's happening across all our processes and experiences at any point in time. It goes effectively, if you want to think about it this way, from the boardroom to the lunchroom. Everybody can clearly see were they accountable in terms of the organization's delivery of successful outcomes. It's real time, it's actionable. So how do we create that dashboard, and what does that actual dashboard look like? Now, that session, which brings all these different sort of concepts together, is like 40 minutes long. And I'm going to give you some examples in those. I'll give you examples of all the concepts as we go through. There'll be templates to download. We'll cover off case studies, and I'm not talking about case studies from 15, 20 years ago. I'm talking about case studies that are relevant now, that have been relevant to us over these last few months and this last year or two. How are those people who are doing this stuff really sort of pushing out the boundaries, pushing out the envelope, if you like, in terms of being able to deliver consistently, without exception, successful customer outcomes? So that's a quick overview of Outside-In Concepts. So please join me in the lesson 1, we're calling it, which is really this idea of the moment of truth. Let's go back to its genesis, where it came from, what it can do for us, and then that will set the stage, that will give us a baseline on which we can build all these other concepts. So I'll see you inside of lesson 1 in a few minutes' time. Cheers, guys. Thank you. See you soon.